telecom and mobile technology enabler for Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, and a very interesting panel. My pleasure to invite Udit Mehrotra, CEO and Managing Director of SpectraNet, Karan Bedi, COO of Eros Now, and Rupinder Singh, Director, Sales Business Development, Internet of Everything at Cisco.
Mobile technologies, or for that matter, broadband, is, I would say, an essential requirement for an economy to grow in. And multiple studies, including World Bank as well as McKinsey studies, have actually clearly articulated that within almost 10% increase in the broadband services in the country, you actually increase your GDP by around 1.5%. I think if we correlate back to the broadband penetration in country over here, it is almost like 15% of people actually are at this point of time utilizing it directly or indirectly. So if we increase it further, even by 10 percentage point, you are increasing your GDP by 1.5%. So I think it is extremely important for us as an industry as well as government to look into how exactly we can further multiply and make it much more broad-based to have the rural population inclusive into this.
Okay, over to you.
So, thanks again for inviting me for this. And so I completely agree. I take this thought, 1 degree forward. It's not just it's sort of essential, it's an essential commodity now. In the US, at least, the FCC decision that came down in June, I think it was, about neutrality issues aside, the one thing that it did was it classified it as like water and power. It classified broadband as water and power. So I think that it was a very, very important statement that the FCC made, that this is not a luxury anymore, this is not an open system anymore, they brought it into a higher state of regulation because they considered it to be that core to existence.
What I've often found is that, as a country, we are too obsessed with mobile. This is not to say that mobile is not an important factor for bringing in inclusive growth for as far as broadband is concerned nationally, right? But mobile and mobile technologies can only go that far, right? We often forget the role of the wireline technologies or the support that the wireline technology essentially ends up providing to the mobile networks, if I may say so, right? That is one. And second, while we often talk of inclusive versus exclusive, etc., within at a national level, right? What we really need to do is, take a step back, start looking at a global scale, and we'll see how excluded we are already, right, as a country. The approach to providing broadband across India, it cannot just be a mobile-based approach or cannot just be a wireline-based approach for that matter, right? It has to be both, and somewhere it will be 4G that will work, which will provide, let's say, whatever Mbps of broadband connectivity and services. And for cities like Delhi and Bombay and other major cities, it's got to be fiber, which can essentially provide services of 1 Gbps as well, which will essentially allow us to compete, at least provide us a enablement and provide us a platform, a common platform where we can actually compete as a country.
Essentially, because of your own exposure to technology and networks, I wanted to understand from you, if you were to describe the state of mobile networks, not companies, but the general state of telecom networks in India at this point of time, on a comparative basis with similar sized economies, if that is possible, are we up to date? Do we have next generation networks, or are we in 2005 or 2010?
Technically, from a technology point, we are very much there, right? Not in 2005, but in 2015. But obviously the quality of service is not up to the mark as yet, I guess. With all the core ops and everything else that we keep seeing. Yeah.
And in very simple terms for our viewers and audience to understand, everyone believed that with the advent of 3G you would get much faster speeds. Of course, there is 4G that is coming, but currently 3G has been more or less a frustrating exercise, and we incidentally saw in the last 1 year that even basic voice calling became a rarity at times. Is that an issue of network architecture, or is it the fundamental point that you touched upon, that the way we have focused on a mobile only sort of scenario is perhaps not the right way? You need to refocus on the backhaul and fiber that way.
See, You know, first and foremost, if you look at it globally, right, there is really no economy that I'm aware of, any developing or developed economy which is only dependent on a mobile network, right, for its growth. Okay, what that also means is that all developed economies have very strong and very well penetrated, or even if not very well penetrated, at least in a limited manner, very well penetrated wireline networks, right, which enables the mobile networks, which does not put so much stress on the mobile networks, right? It offloads a lot of traffic from the mobile networks on the wireline networks, whether it is voice, whether it is broadband, whatever kinds of traffic it is, right? But in our country, we are so heavily dependent on the mobile networks because of the lack of strong wireline networks, right? That it ends up putting so much pressure on the networks that at some point in time they are bound to crumble.
I fully agree with Udit that it has to be both wireline and wireless. It's really a pity that India is not even at the bottom if you look in Asia Pacific for high speed broadband. For fiber connections, China 70 million, world over more than 100 million. India doesn't have even a fraction of a million. Fraction of a million is not there in India. Indonesia he mentioned and all have gone quite high. So, but then fiber is a very expensive proposition. How government will not put money in that? Private sector has to come forward. Telecom operators are not putting money because they see where is the money. They will put lot of money. Airtel and all, some pilots here and there they will do, but they are not putting money in fiber. So what is the way out? A shared infrastructure of fiber has to be laid. Now government has come out with no fund project in rural. It's been dragging for 5 years, not taking off. Let government focus on rural, but in private they have to incentivize shared infrastructure. If some private companies can lay, which can be shared by all these telco operators, it will become cheaper for them, and it can be on a revenue share model. But those models also some companies try to do. Spectranet is one of them, but it's not taking off. Why? Because the government policies of sharing the infrastructure are holding that back. Active infrastructure sharing is not permitted. Now fiber's active infrastructure sharing gets linked with mobile.
Right.
Government's thinking is always mobile oriented. Sharing of mobile network should not be permitted, spectrum sharing and all that. Why can't they think of a wireline network of fiber should be permitted to be shared? Lot of suggestions made to government. And then private buildings, fiber has to be laid in the buildings. China has made it mandatory whenever a new building comes up, it has to be wired. Korea has classified the buildings on category 5, which can provide 100 Mbps fiber connectivity.
All of us agree that okay, all the ways of reaching out to the rural population, or let's say to the broader population, is through the broadband. Mobile is not the only way. Similarly, wired line is also not only the way. Fiber is also not the only way. NoFun project, as he is mentioned, is dragging for 5 years. For what? For the need of right of way, for the need of money, for the need of fiber. Who's going to own that? Whether it is a state prerogative, whether it is a national prerogative. Idea is, why not we bridge it with the upcoming technologies which are wireless technologies, so that we actually bridge the gap for time to market. See, wherever private operators will go, they'll only go if they find business over there. There are two ways that government can at least put in catalyst action over here. One, allow and I would say act as a catalyst to use the wireless technologies, whether it is point to multi-point Ethernet radios, to bridge the last mile gap. Second thing is by educating the rural masses about the usage of all these things, because that is going to instigate the requirement which private operators will see, and they'll start investing it back over there. And it will all start from there. Ultimately, it will be fiber which will be reaching out over there, but you need certain time for fiber to reach out to rural India. For that, you have to bridge the gap. To bridge that gap, I think last mile, we need to see whatever the technologies which are available, start using that.
No, last mile, I fully agree, has to be wireless. But talking of city, even for that 4G, you need a fiber backhaul.
You need a
Not for
backhaul.
It
without-
is.
So
It is.
fiber has to reach every nook and corner, basically.
My only very simple point of view is that at the end of the day, as Karan was mentioning about FCC, net neutrality, etc., etc., let me also share that FCC recently reclassified broadband to be minimum 25 Mbps. Do you know what is it in India, by the way? Okay, huh?
2 Mbps now?
No, not yet. I think it is, or I don't think so. It was last I checked is 520
512,
Mbps.
okay.
right? 5.2 kbps, right? So absolutely right. So let me ask you, Karan, would you like your HD 1080p movie to be sort of streamed on 512 kbps?
See, it's not even a question of that. You were talking about demand. My industry has the best indicator of demand possible. You go to the hinterland of India, you will have houses with no sofa, but a DTH box.
Yeah.
Right? They are and everyone pays that ARPU of 180 to 200 or whatever the DTH box is. Why is OTT and why are video services of IP having issues taking off? Because the reliability of bandwidth is not there. You give the bandwidth, you give it at a decent price.
And there will be some money.
The demand is sitting there, right? It's sitting there right now. DTH is a 100% proxy for this.